I am Ray, and here's how to actually attract abundance. You see, the problem with the spiritual community is that we're always kind of just repeating the same things over and over again, hoping that one day they will become true. And perhaps I am guilty of this, but sometimes we need to know why things are true in order to really take action on them. And, well, you know, spirituality oftentimes makes no sense at all. And here we are just trying to believe things into existence. You see, there was a quote. Sorry. Let us begin shortly. Now, there was a quote in the Bible that says, "For those who have, more will be given, and those who have not, even what little they have will be taken from them." Now, that's not very nice, it seems. What does this mean, though? Why? Why is this the case? Why do the poor get poorer and the rich get richer? Robin Hood, where are you? Here I am. Except for there is enough abundance to go all around. You don't need to tax the rich. You just need to stop being poor. Most people stay stuck their whole life for one reason and one reason only. They live from their senses alone, meaning they think the true nature of reality is the reality that they see. Now, we're not even going to go in depth to the fact that we only see 1% of the light spectrum. So 99% of reality, we don't even see it. This is like trying to live your life through a keyhole. Everything's dark and there's just this little sliver of light. When you live from your senses alone, you're a slave to the 3D reality. What is 3D? Three-dimensional. Well, let's not even say that. It's a bit too wordy for my taste. You're a slave to the animal kingdom, meaning you will spend your whole life in survival. And you can become rich this way. It can happen. It's just going to take years of struggle. Some people get rich because, well, they're the biggest ape in the monkey cage or something. You fight your way to the top. Now, you can be the baddest monkey on the planet, but at the end of the day, you're still a monkey. So let's not do this. See, people who live from senses alone have to create their reality with their hands. Effort. Please let me know if this glare is annoying. It appears annoying to me, but I cannot tell how clear these words are. But if you want to be free, you will have to begin creating your reality with your mind. And your mind exists in a higher dimension. Now, why is this the case? I will show you. I'm sure you've heard it all before. Energy is the force of creation. And our mind, little mind here, is a tool that directs the flow of energy. So the entire quality of the life we create for ourselves is determined exactly by the quality of the things we focus our attention on. That is all. If you want to understand why your life is the way it is for no other reason than you have been focusing on certain things. That is the differentiating factor between a billionaire like Trump, or a homeless person, or a saint like Jesus, or a murderer. These people don't even get names. They who shall not be named. Because there are dogs barking outside. It's a perfect time to go get a refill. Enjoy this temporary commercial break. I have returned. Now we have to understand there are certain blueprints for creating certain types of reality. There are specific things that lead to the creation of a life like Trump, or like a homeless person. And, well, Jesus is an easy one. Because if you want to be like Jesus, you only have to do one thing. Direct your mind one-pointedly toward God. That is all. The rest will take care of itself. And, well, if you want to be a murderer, don't. That's bad. The point is that, well, if you don't like the life you're having, change your mind. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You don't understand how you've been creating your reality this whole time. It's happening regardless, whether you're conscious of it or you're unconscious of it. But now you shall be conscious. Awaken, my child. But in order to awaken, you need awareness. First, congratulations. You are now aware of how you create your reality. Because energy is creation, it is your creative power. And to what you give your attention to on a daily basis, that is what you are feeding your energy. And so, well, you want to stop living in unconsciousness. Because unconsciousness is how animals live. And that is how most of us live. It's not bad or good. It's just how it is. We are emerging from this animal form into higher consciousness. But we still have to deal with it. So all that is required to live a life of absolute abundance, you just have to focus your mind on abundance. And you see, the mind can only focus on one thing at a time. And so you have a choice. Every moment you're focusing on lack, you're taking your attention away from abundance. That's all. And look, if you give 50 points to lack and 50 points to abundance, that is 50 out of 100. That is an F, my friend. You fail. Which means you will end up poor. And see, on this journey, as I focused my awareness on becoming more aware, I become more aware of all the ways I have been focusing on lack. And the more aware I have become, the more power I have gained to stop it. Because we would not consciously make our life worse. But we do. We make our life worse all the time. Which means that we are unconsciously doing it. And what is unconsciousness? It's darkness. And so what is awareness? It's light. And so mathematically speaking, the cure for darkness is light. Because when you put darkness and light in the same place at the same time, light prevails. But what do people do? They live from their senses alone. So they look out at their life. They see poverty. They see lack. They see scarcity. So they focus more on it. And if you live from senses alone, you can only create more of just the same. Which is why the poor stay poor. And why those who have not, even what they have will be taken. Because they're constantly reinforcing scarce and lack and poverty. And in order to escape it, you got two choices. You either struggle like an animal, beat yourself with discipline, work yourself to death in this rat race, be the biggest rat. Or you can be, a human being, a divine creator, as you were designed to be. Because you were made in the image of God. So you too are a divine creator. And this is how. Your mind is your magic wand for life. And energy, well, this is actually your God power. Believe it or not. So imagine if you had a magic wand with the power of God. It's the truth. It's just we don't know how to use it. And well, look at someone like Jesus, who can perform all of these God-like miracles. How does he do it? It doesn't make any sense. We don't even believe in these kinds of things. That's not possible. That's a metaphor. Symbolic. Well, you, my friend, are going to see how everything you believe to be true was not as true as you believe. Because you, in fact, do have the infinite power of God at the touch of your fingertips. But those who do not know their power have no power. And the price of ignorance is slavery and death. That is what it means to be a battery in the matrix. The system takes advantage of your ignorance and puts you to work. But no more. No more. Let's just touch upon the Jesus thing again. Jesus had access to the infinite power of God because Jesus was God. But you see, the reason that we don't have those same powers is because we're living in ignorance. We're living in ignorance of our true nature, that we are all the Christ. And Jesus the man was the Christ because Jesus denied himself. He was empty, a perfect vessel for God. Now if you think about two jars, box jars, one is a dirt clay pot, like most people. It's broken. It's got dirt and clay and rocks inside. It's all messy. And then the other vessel is Jesus. Pure, gold, empty, clean. So when the water of God gets poured in, for most people, it's not that useful. The God power has a hard time working through us. So we are castrated as creators. We have been cut off from our divine God power. But for someone like Jesus, when the water of God is poured in, God remains pure in this vessel. So God can effortlessly work through that vessel and perform miracles in the world. Because when you have the infinite power of God at the touch of your fingertips, you can do anything. You can change the weather, you can heal a person, you can manifest something out of thin air. And yes, we don't believe these kinds of things because we live in a rational society. We live from our senses unless there is direct evidence that we can perceive with our eyes. We don't believe anything. But my friends, we shall rewrite the history books. Sounded a bit like a movement happening. The science books will be rewritten because we know so little about the true nature of reality. It's sad. So in a bit, we will understand how to maximize our God power. But let us return to the F. Now, I have not really said anything that requires too much belief and faith. We know that we have energy. We know that we have a mind. Well, at least some of us. And we know how to become a better creator, generally speaking. This is just a teaser for now. But the point is, we want to become more and more aware of the truth, the true nature of reality, that which cannot be experienced if you're living from senses alone. We first must have to become aware of our power so that we can use it. And all we need to know for now is that if you want to live a life of abundance, you have to get these numbers up, my friend, and lower these ones. All you have to do is become aware of where you allow your mind to drift. I like to say, if people only paid attention to their words and their thoughts for one day, they would know exactly why their life is the way it is. Because we are creating our reality through the words that we speak and the thoughts that we think. So your first mission, just become aware of your tendency to ruminate on lack and scarcity. Because until you become aware of that, there's not much we can do to change it. Now you can think about it right now. Think about money. What is the first thing that pops up in your mind? There's only two things that can arise. You either have a positive thought and a positive feeling that arises, or you have a negative one, a negative thought or a negative feeling. Automatically, the first thing that pops up, you will either start thinking of bills, how you never have enough, how you're always struggling for money. You will think about how much you hate your job. Look at my previous video if you want to escape your stupid job. Or you will naturally focus on how much you have. Abundance. How much you love money. Not in a greedy way, but in a healthy way. You see, being rich is a mindset. It has nothing to do with your external circumstances. Simply put, you either focus on what you have or you focus on what you don't have. And if you focus on what you don't have, you'll get more of that. You will always create more of what you focus on. Because our focus directs our creative power. And so, what are you creating? And think about it. If the first thought you have when it comes to money, if it is negative, it means you have a negative relationship with money. And think about what it's like to have a negative relationship with a person. Do you want to be around that person? Would you like to spend more time with that person? No. You are repulsed by that person and you wish they would die. I'm sorry. That's not true. Be nice. But if you have a negative relationship with something, you cannot attract it. There's a natural repulsion, which is why people struggle. They're operating from fear, lack, and scarcity. So they're always trying to fight and struggle for something, for scraps. But what happens? They always return to the default. They get money, they lose it. They get money, they lose it. Whereas for us civilized individuals, the moment you have a positive relationship with money, money flows into your life with no effort. None. Because think about a relationship with a friend. Does it take any effort to go and hang out with them? If you really love them and you enjoy their presence, no, it's effortless. I like what the teacher Myron Golden said. He said, successful people don't try to succeed any more than regular people try to fail. It's automatic for both. And so all you have to do, my friend, is come over to the light. Don't stay stuck here. Now, little biology for you, my friend. We have two identities. Before we get into this, let me just show you a basic formula for creation. Be, do, have. What you have currently is a result from what you have done. What have you done? What have you done? And what you have done is a result of who you are. Now, the slaves live on this side of the equation because they look out and say, I want this, I want it, I need it. So let me do more. Let me work longer hours. Let me work more days. Let me get a second job. Do. That is what you will get. And they ignore this side of the equation. But when you focus on this, you are free. Because all you have to do to get what you want is to become the version of you that already has it. You see, I've been observing myself lately, as I often do, looking in the mirror, and I watch the things I do when I've been operating in a high frequency state or when I've been operating in a low frequency state. And what happens when I'm in a more negative state of being, which doesn't really happen, but lower than my natural state, I naturally, without any effort at all, start behaving in more negative ways. No effort at all. And in the same way, when I'm vibing high, I act naturally in high vibe ways. I can do difficult things without effort. It's just who you are. You don't have to try. But what happens is that we look at our life and we say, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. All of these things I know I need to be doing. But we are not the person who can do them yet. So it takes struggle and struggle and struggle. Think about it. How hard is it to go for a 5-mile run when you haven't worked out in 3 years? Very difficult. Nothing but struggle. But how difficult is it to run 5 miles when you're someone who runs 5 miles every day? No effort. Because that is just a part of who you are. And so here is the key, the source to all of your problems. The unconscious is the intelligence of our body. Its primary purpose is survival. And the conscious mind, the conscious identity, is the person we believe ourselves to be. It's kind of our center of experience, our ego. Now the unconscious, our body, speaks the language of feelings. And our conscious mind speaks the language of patterns. In other words, we receive information from the world or from our thoughts in the form of patterns and symbols. And that information gets translated into feelings based on our interpretation. And what happens is that every time we have a strong feeling about something, we tell the unconscious mind to pay attention. Because strong feelings are relevant to our survival, whether it's strong feelings of fear or strong feelings of pleasure, pain or desire. And so whenever we have a strong feeling, our body takes a snapshot. And it takes that information that we received and it pairs it with whatever emotion we had. And it stores that snapshot in our body as memory. The reason our body stores this information is because we have to act before thinking. The moment you begin thinking about the grizzly bear, you're already eaten. So your body needs to act for you. It needs to hijack your attention. Imagine if you consciously had to beat your own heart. If you had to run all the different systems of your organs and stuff like that. It's not possible. Your unconscious is fundamentally in charge. It's running the show. We just get to be on top, directing things. Think about this. This is like the car and the engine and all the parts. We have no idea what's going on. Maybe you're a mechanic. Probably not. And the conscious is like the driver. Here I am, driving my car. I'm in control. Yes. You're in control until the car breaks down, my friend. Don't forget it. Keep this over here. Be, do, have. Why is this important? It's because the only reason that we're still poor, that we're still living in lack and scarcity, no other reason, none, other than this. And it ties into what we spoke about earlier. The only reason is if we take the pattern of money, depending on the experiences that we've had, accumulation throughout our whole life, what determines of whether or not we stay poor is the ratio of positive to negative experiences with this pattern, which is money in this case. Why? Because if you continue to have negative experiences with money, you will begin feeling negative about it. You will develop a negative relationship with money. And your unconscious will paint a picture of you that you are like a scavenger animal. Because if you think about it, if you were living in the desert, where resources were actually scarce, to live in abundance, to live with an abundance mindset would kill you very quickly. Because when you're in abundance, you waste. You don't care. There's plenty to go around. But when you're in lack and scarcity, you're very resourceful. So your unconscious keeps you poor in attempts to keep you alive. Which is why no matter how hard you try, if your unconscious has painted a negative picture about money, you will always return to the default. No matter how much money you make, no matter how hard you work, you will always return to zero. You will always return to being broke. And the moment you change your relationship with money, you will effortlessly have as much as you need. Why? Because your unconscious hijacks your attention. So previously when we discussed that what we focus on we create, well, that's well and good, but we don't always control what we focus on. So we unconsciously sabotage our life over and over again because our unconscious is trying to keep us alive. But the unconscious is blind. I often tell the story of the Buddhist monk who was traveling in the Himalayas. And one day he heard a great rumble. The ground was shaking and he was looking around for an avalanche of rocks. But there was none. But in the distance he saw a great hulking figure charging straight at him. But this figure was strange. There was something peculiar about the shape. And before he knew it, he saw it was a great big elephant. And there sat on top of the elephant a little man. Curious, the monk shouted out, "Where are you going, little man?" And the man said, "Wherever the elephant takes me." The elephant is our unconscious, and we are that which is on top of the elephant. That is why Carl Jung said, unless you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life. So all that has happened is that throughout our life, especially when we are children, because that is when we are the most impressionable, the more negative experiences we have with any certain pattern, doesn't have to be money, it will develop a negative relationship with that thing. So you may have had a bad Christmas one time when you were 7. And from then on, you've been living in lack and scarcity because your body doesn't feel safe when it comes to money. And so every time you get money, you will unconsciously sabotage it, spend it, give it away. Why? Because fundamentally, you are living in fear, lack, and scarcity. So you engage in ways that reinforce fear, lack, and scarcity. And so you will have lack and scarcity. And all we have to do, if you want to live a life of abundance, doesn't matter if you want billions, doesn't matter if you want millions, it doesn't matter if you want just enough to survive. It doesn't matter if you're living on the streets, you can still live in abundance. Because abundance is having what you need when you need it. The question is, how much do you want to amplify it? How much riches do you want? And all that is required is that we change our relationship with this pattern by feeling more positive, by changing this negative feeling to a positive one. And the moment you start naturally thinking positive thoughts about money, you have begun to change your relationship with it. And all you got to do is keep building that momentum. How do we do this? Well, we created the unconscious identity of lack and scarcity through negative experiences with money. So all we have to do is change this ratio. Positive experiences. Because if you've had 70 negative experiences, 70 points, to 30 positive ones, you will live in lack and scarcity, no matter what. And so the reason, for instance, we talked about struggling your way to the top. The reason that those people can still be successful is because they struggle, they try really hard, and they begin having more and more positive experiences with money. They find success through their hard work, through their discipline. Nothing wrong with that. It's just a hard way of doing things. And so what happens? More positive experiences. They flip these numbers around. And before they know it, they are naturally an abundant person. They just made it there through brute force. Working longer, working harder. It's not that you can't do it like this. It's just that you don't have to. Because the easy way and the hard way get to the same destination for the same reasons. That is, you begin changing your relationship with money. And you start feeling more positive about it. Because if you want to change your unconscious identity of lack and scarcity, you have to speak the language of feelings. The reason that people struggle is because they are ignorant of their power. Once you become aware of your power, this is easy. It's not hard. Because you know how and you know why. What I mean is that once you understand that all you have to do is reprogram your unconscious mind, you focus on reprogramming your unconscious mind directly instead of accidentally reprogramming your unconscious mind through taking massive action. The difference between those who struggle and those who don't. Those who struggle reprogram their unconscious mind unintentionally over time. Those who do not struggle spend their time reprogramming their unconscious identity. In other words, they focus on being. They don't focus on doing more. They don't focus on getting more. Because once you are more, these become automatic. And you will see just how easy this is. Here are some practical examples. So, the foundation, as we've discussed, is awareness. So you want to begin becoming more aware of your relationship with money. Pay attention to every time you spend money. And pay attention to every time you receive money. And don't just unconsciously allow life to just happen. Live an intentional life, my friend. So what do? Well, we can't just change our feelings because we feel like it. We only have control over two things. Our conscious thoughts and our conscious actions. That's it. We only have control over these two things. The easiest way to change, to reprogram our unconscious mind, is to begin thinking better feeling thoughts, as Abraham Hicks would say. Because the whole be, do, have thing, that's a basic blueprint of how we create our reality. But a more in-depth one is, make some room here. Identity influences the thoughts that we have. Our thoughts influence emotions. Our emotions influence actions. And our actions create consequences in the world. You can look at the consequences of your life and understand that what you got is because of the way you've been acting. And the way you've been acting is because of the way you've been feeling. And the way you've been feeling is because of the thoughts you've been having. And the thoughts you've been having is because of who you are. Your unconscious identity, the body, will spring forth automatic thoughts that you have no control over. You might say, well, where do thoughts come from? They come from the void. The void is our body. It's our unconscious. So automatic thoughts that appear are nothing more than memory that has been stored in our body. That is also what dreams are. We're not going to go down that path. But the more you know. Now, I'm generalizing a bit. Bear with me. And so the unconscious produces automatic thoughts. The conscious mind produces conscious thoughts. So we have control over our conscious thoughts and our conscious reaction to things. We don't have control over our automatic thoughts, nor our unconscious actions. But we can act consciously. And so if we want to change any one of these other areas, we can only do it through our conscious thoughts and our conscious actions. And instead of trying to just change the consequences in your life, go to the root. Because everything is affected by this. This is the best bang for your buck. If you focus only on consequences, you're going to be in a hamster wheel. If you focus on this, everything else becomes automatic. And how do you change your identity? Well, you can change your conscious identity. You can say, I'm this kind of person now. Or you can try to become this kind of person. You set a conscious intention. And then, of course, your unconscious identity will say, I don't think so. You think you can just betray me like this? You're not going anywhere. Well, now you realize, okay, wait a minute. I have to get the elephant on board. Like on December 31st, when you make the New Year's resolution, I'm going to go wake up early and go to the gym. And then January 1st comes and the bed is comfortable and nice. And the elephant does not want to move. The elephant says, oh yeah, go ahead. Go to the gym. Wake up early. Go ahead. Try it. I'm going to sleep here nice and warm. And you can go do whatever you want. I don't care. Then you see who's really in control. But when you get the unconscious on board, when you learn how to communicate with the elephant and train it, the elephant does what you want automatically. It goes where you want. So when you and the elephant are on board, effortless, because your elephant is doing all the work. But when you're fighting against the elephant, nothing but struggle. So we want to reprogram the unconscious identity. Now, focus on the emotions. Actions will come naturally because, well, we're going to be living our life. Things are going to happen. So, every time you spend money, spend and receive. Slow down. Take 60 seconds or 3 minutes and begin consciously appreciating the experience. Because what's going to happen is that if the default state is negative, if you're living in fear, lack, and scarcity, when you hand the money over to the cashier, you're automatically going to have some anxiety. Oh man, I know that this is a lot. I don't know. You're going to be shaking your hands as you're moving the money. You don't want that because it's just reinforcing an unconscious negative identity. That is why we become aware of how we spend and how we react when we receive money. Unless you consciously implant positive thoughts, negativity is going to be the default, and you won't be able to change. So what do? As you're handing over the money, you begin repeating things like, thank you, I love you. Thank you for the opportunity to receive these groceries. Thank you for the opportunity to have money to spend. You just get OCD, get obsessive about it, because the more you begin repeating positive thoughts, the stronger the emotions will be. All it is a habit of repeating positive thoughts whenever you interact with money. Every time you receive money, don't just move on with your day. Take a moment to look at it and appreciate it and say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And what you can do is you can get, if you got a $20 bill or any kind of money, doesn't matter. Look at it and smile. Just smile. Wow, thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you. Even if it's robotic at first, build a habit of positive thinking. Because with your mind, you control reality. You're either unconsciously doing it or you're consciously doing it. And what happens is that over time, you continue to have more and more positive experiences with money because you start feeling better about it, because you start thinking better about it. And before you know it, you have reprogrammed your unconscious identity. You have shifted the ratio of negative and positive experiences. And abundance becomes more and more your default state. And the more you keep going, the more abundant you will be. And the more abundance you will have. Now, a bonus tip. Because I left this up here, might as well talk about it. Now, if I was an evil dictator and wanted you to be my slave, this is what I would do. First of all, I know you have the power of creation within you, but I don't want you to know that. But since ignorance is the default state, I'm not too worried. However, what I will do is I will destroy your focus. Because if you cannot direct your attention in any one direction for long enough, you cannot create anything. It's like planting a row of 10 seeds, and each seed requires 10 cups of water per day. But because I have destroyed your focus, you pour 3 cups, and then you move on to the next one, and then you move on to the next one, never watering the seeds enough for them to grow. And then you wonder, why is nothing happening? You got no focus. The more focus you develop, the more power you have. Which is why someone like Jesus, one pointed toward God, absolute focus. Look at someone like Khabib in MMA. What are the 2 things he focuses on? God and training. The more focused you can be, the more you will just run a train over everyone. Not literally, but figuratively speaking. Because when you're focused, you're not letting all kinds of other garbage in. The mind is like a laser beam. cuts away all the distractions, all the nonsense. But if you're allowing the distractions in, the laser beam is all over the place. Your attention gets destroyed when you're focusing on all these different things. The more things you focus on, the less powerful you will be. Focus is power. And when you're focused, you don't allow all this other garbage to distract you. Another thing is, living a righteous life or purity. You could say psychic hygiene. If you're focused one-pointedly toward living a righteous life, all the negativity in the world will have no power over you. And you see what happens? I'm sure you've noticed this. Every time you engage in some kind of addiction, some kind of self-destructive behavior, you get more negative thoughts afterwards. Thoughts of shame and guilt and regret. And these negative thoughts cloud the mind. They disturb your peace. But when you live a righteous life, you are always at peace. You are able to sleep well at night. But if you have a guilty conscience, it is difficult to sleep because your mind becomes restless. And when your mind is restless, you lose your creative power. You could say because, now you're wrestling with and dealing with these negative thoughts. And because the mind can only focus on one thing at a time, in your wrestling with the negative thoughts, you take your attention away from what is good. And 2, the more pure you become, the more energy can flow through you most freely. And because energy is life, the more life can flow through you freely, the more easily you flow through life. But most people are dealing with all kinds of baggage. That's slowing them down, that's keeping them stuck, that's distracting them. Remember being. It doesn't matter what you want in life. It doesn't even matter what you do. What matters is who you become. If you can direct your actions toward becoming the greatest version of yourself, you will automatically begin living your greatest life. Don't focus your actions in this direction. No, don't do that. Focus it on becoming the best version of you. Everything else will take care of itself. Because at the end of the day, you will be the bottleneck to your experience, no matter what you do. In relationships, their success will be determined by, how good you are at relationships. Can you speak to people in a way that doesn't trigger them? Can you yourself not get triggered? You have a business, but the quality of your business and the success will be determined by the quality of you. All of your personal problems will get reflected in that business. All you have to do is optimize yourself. Instead of looking out in the world and living from senses alone, you go within. This side is within, this side is outside. Even if you want to dedicate your life to helping other people, it does not make sense to do that unless you have already optimized yourself. Because you cannot fill the cups of others when your cup is not overflowing. Don't fall into that trap. Because you might say, it's selfish to only focus on myself. No, it's the most selfless thing you could possibly do. Because you optimize yourself to give yourself away as a gift to the world. But nobody wants a crappy gift. Become the greatest creator. Become the most powerful. And there will be things in you that say, no, power is bad. Money is the root of all evil. All of these negative beliefs keeping you stuck in a worse life. I say to you, my friend, become as powerful as you can. Become as rich as you can, if you want. Become as free as you can. The more powerful you become, the more power you have to create any life that you desire. And even at the most extreme ends, we have the power to also be like Jesus, in that we have absolute power over our reality. But for most people there is a delay, whereas for Jesus there was no delay. Instant access to God power. It's just for all of us, it will be slower. And you'll see it for yourself on this journey. You'll see how you're creating your reality, but with a delayed effect. They say often that it's the 3-day delay. So the reality we are currently experiencing is a result of 3 days ago, our thoughts, our actions, our feelings. Now, take it with a grain of salt, but it's a nice benchmark. Remember, the mind can only focus on one thing at a time. You get to focus on what you have, or you get to focus on what you don't have. The universe is perfectly balanced between negativity and positivity. It's not what you think is true. It's not what you believe with your senses. It's what you choose to focus on. And that is power. Because you get to choose to focus on whatever you want. You can change your thoughts and you can change your life. So go forth, my friend. Master you, master the universe. This guy's mastering the chainsaw. I hope he's not coming to murder me. That's a negative thought. The more I think about getting murdered, the more likely I am to get murdered. The more you know. I am Ray. Visit my cool store. Much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be.